Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the channel. Sani, your favourite sports content creator, taking you guys to the biggest and best sporting events and also inspiring you guys in the next generation to take up sport, play sport, watch sport, and do all things sport. But today, of course, is a fireside chat, and in today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the fourth Sani Sesh, which of course was Wimbledon, looking at the cost, the planning, also looking ahead to the US Open, as well as reflecting back on tennis and this year's general. So without further ado, let's get started. What can I say about the sesh? It was amazing, like all seshes are, but this one was very unique because, like I said in the fourth Sani Sesh, I've never been to Wimbledon before, so it was an experience that I've never had. It was definitely serene seeing Wimbledon as well. I always see it on TV every year, like most people, and you don't actually understand how vast the grounds are and how insane the whole atmosphere and ambience is. I mean, like I said, normally you see me going to your cricket, your football, which will come soon, but you normally see me at sessions that don't obviously exude the affluent nature of sport, but Wimbledon definitely showcased that. But it didn't really deter me from enjoying myself. I definitely got stuck in. I was asking a lot of questions to a lot of the stewards that were there, just finding out a little bit about Wimbledon. It's all about experiencing the sesh, but also finding out about what was going on. I mean, the museum, for example, was one of the favourite aspects of the day because, like I said, enjoying and experiencing Wimbledon is one thing, but also embracing and appreciating what you're around. Like the history was insane, so that was brilliant. And yeah, I can't wait to go again. I mean, the day itself, the tennis was brilliant. Obviously, you saw the first-hand experience I got from Kevin Anderson and Marcelo Barrios Thomas Vera. I think I got that right. So obviously, it was very first-hand experience. I was very close to the court, and you could see how much effort they put into every shot. The serves are rapid. Like, I play tennis, but the amount of pace they generate off the ball and spin is insane, and the tactics they use as well. But listen, Wimbledon was great. I can't wait to go next year. So that was the sesh itself, but we need to look at the costs, as I always try and be as open and transparent as I can with you guys. So we of course got a train from Solihull train station to London Marylebone the day before the actual sesh, and that cost this much. We of course stayed a night in London. It was a nice area, it was a nice hotel. I think it was in Bayswater, so a nice central location, and the hotel for one night cost this much. We of course then got the tube from Bayswater to Southfields, and that cost this much. We then of course had the ground pass for that day. We didn't actually go into Centre Court or Court 1, and the ground pass cost this much. We also got merchandise, so for example, I bought one of these hats because I just couldn't help myself, and then I also bought one of these things as well, so some towels, cheeky Wimbledon towels, and that cost this much. And of course, food and drink over both days, so obviously the Sunday when we arrived, as well as the Monday, altogether accumulated to this much. So altogether, the sesh cost this much. Which, if you think about it, if you're in London, you don't have to worry about the hotel costs. Furthermore, if you're not interested, like most people, in buying merchandise, then you won't need to worry about it because there are two costs that are optional, whereas the rest are some things that you definitely have to consider. So, for example, the tube. I doubt most people going to Wimbledon are going to be living near Wimbledon in SW19 or Southfield, so the tube is something to definitely consider. Food and drink as well. Me, myself, was very shrewd, like I am at most sessions, where I plan and see what's on the menu beforehand, or even take a packed lunch. For me, myself, obviously, there's one thing with Wimbledon that's quite good, is they have refillable taps everywhere. So I brought a water bottle, and I was just refilling all day because I like drinking water. So there is that to consider. But altogether, not too pricey. One aspect, though, that I will briefly mention is the fact that the Amex Lounge was brilliant. I mean, I didn't even know that Amex had a partnership with Wimbledon, so that's something, again, with the planning aspect that you definitely need to consider. And yeah, we obviously sat in the Amex Lounge, me and Rajan. We obviously got a few freebies, like for example, I got this power pack, which has been a bit cheeky because I took that to the next sesh, which you'll see next week. I also got this radio as well, which allowed me to obviously listen into the commentary that was happening and occurring. And then also we got a few snacks that were complimentary due to the visit. So altogether, it was really nice that Amex had this aspect. So if you do have an Amex, make sure that if you go next year to book yourself a space in the lounge, because there is a little bit of a wait, but it's definitely worth it, especially when the weather wasn't as good as it was, which it wasn't. We all know that Wimbledon didn't take place last year because of COVID, but what a great championships it was. Obviously, we saw Djokovic win the men's, we saw Ash Barty from Australia winning the women's, and this year as a general, it has been a great year of tennis, especially for both men's and women's, and especially if you're a fan of Novak Djokovic, because not only has he won at Wimbledon, he's also won the 2 other Grand Slams previously at the French Open and the Australian, so he's got 3 out of the 4 championships this year. Now we all know the US Open is happening, and if Djokovic wins that, he'll become the first man since Rod Laver to win 4 Grand Slams in a row. So a lot of history is on the line. We all know what happened in the Olympics as well. Alexander Zverev actually beat Djokovic in the semi-finals and made him leave. So that would have been a little bit more history for Djokovic had he won all 3 as well as the Olympic gold medal, but it was not to be the case. And then of course for the women, we know in the Australian Open earlier this year, Naomi Osaka of Japan won that trophy. In France, it was Barbara Krejcikova, excuse the butchering of the name if I have. And then of course in the Olympics, it was Belinda Bencic of Switzerland. So each slam for the women has seen a new winner, and I think that has been the case for the last couple of years, especially since the dominance of Serena Williams has waned. But listen, it's going to be an interesting year for sure. I mean, we still have the US Open to talk about, which we'll get onto a little bit later. But this year in tennis has been great. We've seen the next gen slowly get into further aspects of the round. So players like Tsitsipas obviously made the final in the French Open, although he was 2 sets up. Probably should have won. He lost to Djokovic in the final. We've seen players like Zverev, of course, in the Olympics win a gold medal. So that was great to see. We've seen players like Shapovalov of Canada make the semi-finals of Wimbledon. So again, this is good steps for the next generation. They just need to definitely break the mental wall that they have facing the likes of Djokovic, Nadal and Federer and go from there. But speaking of Nadal and Federer, we all know that Federer, for example, he lost to Herbert Hukas of Poland in a straight sets loss, and that's something that we don't see Roger Federer occur, especially the fact that he got bageled in the last set, and people are talking about it could be the last time we've seen Federer, and I hope it's not, because he is a great advocate for the sport, and hopefully we get to see him one more time and definitely have his swan song. I think if he retires next year, I think that would be a great swan song, you know, go on tour, you know, have your final tournaments with the fans, you know, give back to the fans, and then yeah, end it from there. And then of course Nadal, we know he didn't play in Wimbledon because after the French Open he wasn't feeling too good. Of course we know he dropped out of the Olympics, and of course he dropped out of the US Open afterwards. But again, next season is going to be really interesting, because I think the big 3, so obviously Djokovic, Federer and Nadal, are going to be gung-ho for the championships. But listen, that was Wimbledon, and now we're on to the US Open. So the US Open is currently taking place. Of course that takes place in New York, Flushing Meadows, and so far I would say my predictions are as follows. So I think in the women's, I think Naomi Osaka is going to win. I think she's going to retain her championship. I think she has a lot going for her. I think we know obviously she didn't take part in Wimbledon, we know what happened in the Olympics, she lost, but I just think her mentality is at a stage where she doesn't care what anyone thinks, and she will produce the goods when it matters. And I think the way she's been playing as well, especially in America when it comes to the hard courts, her game does tend to improve. So I think she's probably the most likely winner from the women's. And from the men's, now this is where things get interesting, because of course we know Djokovic is aiming for the 21st Grand. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that Daniel Medvedev is going to win the US Open. I feel that it will be Djokovic versus Zverev in the semi-finals in the top half of the draw, and I think Djokovic will beat Zverev and gain revenge from the Olympics. But then I also think that Daniel Medvedev would beat his nemesis, Stefanos Tsitsipas, and progress from that. I mean, looking at Tsitsipas, I think he obviously, we know what happened in Wimbledon. He exited early to Frances Tiafoe. Then in the Olympics, he exited at the 3rd round. We know what happened in the French Open final, albeit there was stuff on his mind, such as his grandmother passing away, unfortunately. But I just think that Medvedev will beat him, and I think this will be Medvedev's year. We know what happened in 2019 when he faced Nadal and he lost in 5 sets. Obviously, he was 2 sets down, came back, made it an enthralling match. I think Medvedev will win, but if Djokovic does win this US Open, I think tennis fans, we have to be as objective as we can, and we have to probably say, regardless of who we like as a playing style, be that Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, whoever, you could even like Murray, Wawrinka, I just think when it comes to accolades and records, I think Djokovic's stats and achievements speak for themselves, and I think if he wins in a couple of weeks' time, then I think people will have to reconsider him as the greatest player of all time. So that was a fireside chat for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed it and took a lot of insights. And as always, guys, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Do what you guys keep doing best and that is supporting me. And until next time, peace.